Well, we want to welcome our second panel, and we want to thank you for being here today. I know we have a lot of important organizations to hear from in this panel, so let's get right to it. So we'd like to also recognize Ms. Rebecca Harrison Mullaney for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Chairman Tester, Bost, Ranking Members Moran and Takano, and distinguished committee members, I'm grateful to be here today representing the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors and for the opportunity to share my story. 12 years ago, at the age of 24, my heart was full of ambition and hope for the future. I'd married an incredible man, Ian Morrison, an Apache pilot in the U.S. Army. His call sign, Captain America, spoke to his character. He served honorably and always did the right thing. He was kind and caring, artistic and sarcastic. He was smart, majoring in systems engineering at West Point. He was a man of faith, and he loved me. We were happy and building a life that truly felt like a gift. At 24, I was teaching on post at Fort Hood and pursuing a graduate degree in clinical counseling. Ian had come back to me safely after 10 months in Iraq, but he couldn't sleep. We tried everything. He sought help 6 separate times through the proper military channels. The only assistance he received was a prescription for Ambien, a black box morning sleep aid. The morning of March 21st, 2012, after his third night on Ambien, was a seemingly normal one. He came to my classroom, where he read to my students, something he did often. We had lunch together, and I gave him a big hug, never knowing it would be our last. Ian died that night. I found him in our bedroom, clothed in his Army fatigues, having taken his own beautiful life. He died by suicide at the age of 26 and taken all our plans for the future with him. I will never recover from what I saw that night. My husband, Captain Ian Samuel Morrison, did not want to die. He wanted to live. Like so many of his brothers and sisters in arms, he came home from Iraq in need of help that he did not receive. He died at home from the mental wounds of war and not in a war zone. Therefore, I was not recognized as a Gold Star spouse. I am in strong support of the TAP's recommendation to legally create a broad and inclusive definition of what constitutes a Gold Star family. Specifically, that definition needs to be died while serving or from a service-connected injury or illness. My own clinical work with surviving families over the past 10 years tells me that only good can come from equally honoring and recognizing the families of all veterans and service members who died as a result of their service, regardless of how they died or the geographical location. I grieved Ian intensely, the man I'd lost and the future with him that would never be. I eventually found healing in advocating for service members, veterans, and their families, and following through with my goal to become a mental health care provider. I chose to become what Ian needed before his death and what I so desperately needed after his death. Years later, along this path, I met Brennan, an Army veteran himself. We shared a passion for supporting the military and veteran community. Being with Brennan brought light back into my life. Through my stories, he got to know Ian, and for the first time since my loss, I let myself feel vulnerable and find love again. After experiencing the sanctity and joy of marriage with Ian, I knew that this was something I didn't want to live the rest of my life without, which is why Brennan and I chose to legally marry. In choosing to remarry, I surrendered all that I had left of Ian on paper and the benefits he had earned. $1,600 per month in dependency and indemnity compensation, a portion of his retirement, health insurance, education benefits, military spouse hiring preference, the ability to use the VA home loan, and base access. I am grateful that base access and commissary and exchange privileges have since been restored. The irony is that the only thing that I didn't lose is that I am and will forever be Ian's widow. Remarrying did not change that. If Brennan and I had waited until I was 55 to marry, as the law currently states to retain benefits, I would still be Ian's widow. But I would have delayed the life I have now, a beautiful second chance at happiness with a man who respected Ian and my loss so much that he sat at Ian's grave and asked his permission to marry me before proposing. Brennan and I have a young son, Harrison Samuel, named in honor of our hero, Ian Samuel. He will always be a part of our lives. No passage of time and no magical age of 55 could change that. People are not replaceable. I personally want to thank Ranking Member Moran for introducing the Love Lives On Act And I ask that Congress pass this critical legislation to keep our nation's solemn promise to care for our Gold Star spouses. Taking away a surviving spouse's benefits upon remarriage will never change the fact that they will always be the widow or widower of someone who honorably served our country and died due to that service. In closing, we ask for your support strengthening DIC by passing the Caring for Survivors Act and ensuring CHAMP VA health care for young adult survivors until age 26. The moral of my story is that the heart has many chambers. In one of mine, I hold my love for Ian, and another, my love for Brennan. I believe you will find this to be true for every survivor. Thank you for letting me share my boys with you today. I welcome your questions.